Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, August the 5th. Hey, it's hot in Alabama, but you know what? There's some fish still biting, and our buddies, the guys that put some information in our heads every week to help us put a few on the boat, they're going to help us right now. We'll be right back with what Lee, Tom, Josh, and Gentry have to say. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, August the 5th. Hey, we're joined by Tom Ott, going to talk a little Guntersville fishing. He spends an awful lot of time on the big lake in the sky. Tom, what's happening at Guntersville?
Well, we slid through there a little while this morning, Dano, and, just wanted to touch on a few things. And, the fish are still out there on the ledges. They're still piled up pretty good. Again, a little finicky to take a bite, but, alas, we're also finding some good grass fish, just a standard 3/8 ounce jig right now. I'll let you guys pick the color, but I'm throwing a green pumpkin, and it seems to really just be just hammering them left and right. So not a lot of big fish still left in the grass, but we're still catching a couple of nice ones here and there. But, out on the ledges, that's really where it's at if you're going to bring in one of those big bags for sure.
Are the schools smaller, and are you having to finesse to get those big bites, or can you do some big stuff early and maybe make some adjustments? What's going on?
I think, the philosophy has been really just to throw something very aggressive at first and try to pick off those first few aggressive fish, and then you're going to have to slow down. We generally, if we can get one or two fish to bite out of a school, after that, it's kind of just wasting my time to sit there and just keep trying to pluck at them. But, we can still throw a Ned head at them. We can still throw a drop shot, and those are definitely picking up some of those finickier fish that are just, not quite ready to eat, say, a big worm or a big jig or even a preacher jig or something along those lines.
So when you're going to go drop shot, Nico rig, Ned head, are you having to get a little tighter to the ledge? Are you having to get more vertical to get the thing to fall down?
Oh, certainly, Dano. The big thing is what you're looking for is a little bit of structure, whether it's a rock or a stump or a log that's jammed up on the river ledge. But you're looking for that kind of thing, and that's where you're going to see those fish. The forward-looking sonar has really helped out that a lot. You can see those fish right there along the bottoms of the stumps. And that's what we're targeting. If you drop down on them, generally they'll bite.
All right, so let's turn to crappie. Let's talk a little bit about that. I'm sure the crappie bite's actually probably not that great, but you got to have some brim up and maybe some schooling stripers, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, the schooling activity just hasn't taken off quite as much as it, you'd think, but it is August. I think that's going to really pick up day to day, especially as the days get a little bit shorter. You're going to see those fish start really coming up. The crappie bite, gosh, I've lost them. I think you're going to have to get out there pretty deep in the middle of a creek somewhere and find those crappie for sure. Brim are all over the bank, all around docks, all over the, small brush piles, things like that. And the bass are still eating a lot of them. So, a cricket, a little mep spinner, something like that, you can catch you some brim.
Well, brother, we appreciate everything. Thanks to St. Jennifer for sharing some time with us, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, August the 5th. Hey, we're joined by Gentry Gordy, going to talk a little Lake Martin and Jordan Lake. Let's start at Jordan Lake this time. Gentry, what's happening up there?
It's okay, Dano, given the heat, but a lot of those fish I found, I would say mid-lake all the way up to the dam, but mid-lake down on the lake's got a lot of those long, deep tapering points, 25 foot, 20 to 28, even up there around 30 foot. They're still grouped up. If you can get them to fire, if you can find a decent school and get them to fire, usually, big crankbait, big spinnerbait, you can catch a couple of good ones. And kind of like Tom touched on, you can, if you think there's, if you still see them down there, but they get finicky, I'll throw the big shaky head, big bull worm on it, and even a drop shot. And sometimes you pick up a smaller shaky head, something a little smaller for those finickier fish. But the big thing is finding the school, getting them fired up. If you do that, you can have a little fun out there given the heat.
Is it current related a lot? I mean, are you seeing enough current to really fire those fish off, or are you having to work for them?
Well, of course, like anything, if there ain't no current, you're really having to work for them and, aggravate them more than anything. But if you're there and they do turn that water on, even down on the lake, any water moving's better than anything, and they'll fire up a little better when that water's moving.
All right, let's turn to Lake Martin, big lake, deeper lake. What are you having to do there to put some fish in the boat?
Have a top water plug tied on. I have seen some schools come up. They're not big, but they're fun. And every now and then, of course, they're mixed in with a striper, so you got to be ready for that. That's always fun. Martin has some ledges, but a lot of that is just, it's more tapered than it is anything, and it's just about trying to locate some type of structure on those deeper banks to find your groups of fish and your little bit, better quality fish. Main Lake, some of the bigger creeks, that's where you'll see them. The deeper creeks, you'll see them start to come up in school. But like I said, it's short when they do it, and they're not very big. But if you're right there on top of them, you can have fun catching 13, 14-inch fish.
What's the depth you're seeing for some of the bigger fish, maybe even having to drop shot or Nico rig or shaky head them? What depth are you seeing those fish at?
Dano, honestly, to find a good school of them like that, I wouldn't go no shallower than 20 feet. I mean, they're really out there on Martin. And a lot of times,
Yep.
they're hovering. Sometimes you'll see them over, 50, 60 foot of water, and you just got to try and find that happy medium right there to find something that'll get them to fire up for you.
Gentry, as always, brother, we appreciate it. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you again next week.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, August the 5th. Hey, we're joined by Josh Herron, our local Logan Martin and Lay Lake expert. We're going to talk a little bit of Logan Martin right now. Josh, what's happening at Logan?
And then fish are out. They're out. It's basically hunting brush piles, hunting these fish that are just kind of schooled up and wandering. They're just on bait. We don't have a lot of current right now, so it really kind of fans these fish out, and they just roam. So they act more like blueback herring fish than they do traditional Coos River spots this time of the year. And you're kind of just looking for those little ambush points, whether it be a brush pile, a rock pile, an old house foundation. Just something that kind of keeps these fish's attention, that they kind of hover around. It's the biggest thing right now.
Are you finding them near the main channels, or can you find them in some of those deeper creek channels?
If you find them in a creek right now, it's in a main feeder creek. It's one that's actually going to get a little inflow. So like these creeks that actually have main feeder creeks into them, or traditionally are a lot deeper, and they'll kind of get in the guts of them, and they'll migrate in and out with bait.
Well, speaking of Lay Lake, what can you do to find some bites there?
Avoid everything that they just dump their toxic chemicals on. That stuff ought to be rancid, brown, and stinking by the end of the week. And they're not going to give us any grass to fish. I mean, it's going to be kind of the same deal. The only blessing in disguise at Lay is we still have a little offshore timber left. So these fish will actually get out and kind of wander in that timber. It's like a giant standing forest, but it's just like bow hunting, man. You kind of got to get out there and peck around and beat and bang and wander around in that timber. And it's a really good time of the year to learn how to use your electronics, because you get a lot of shots at some pretty decent class spotted bass. I mean, you might not catch a lot of giants, but you'll have a chance to catch a lot of 2-pounders.
How deep are you seeing them at Lay Lake?
At Lay, most of the time, these fish are going to be like 15, 16 in that range. Seems to be their comfort zone. Like the timber's liable to be in 25 and 30, but these fish like to sit kind of halfway up the pole. So that seems to be the big thing. When we get a lot of sun, they'll kind of suspend up in the top of the trees, so you'll kind of see them right in the tops of them, or they'll be 5 or 6 feet below the surface, which is fun, because then it kind of puts them in range where you can catch them doing stuff like throwing like a shower blow or pencil popper or something like that. You can actually kind of call some of these fish up. When it gets a little cloudier, they get a little bit deeper, and you can catch them on like a fish head spin, or like kind of what do they call, hover stroll and stuff like that.
Well, Josh, man, as always, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week, brother. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, August the 5th. Hey, we're joined by our favorite crappie king from Weiss Lake, Lee Pitts, who happens to be a pretty darn good fisherman just about everywhere on anything. Lee, let's talk Weiss Lake real quick. What's happening up there?
Weiss is doing pretty good right now. We've had a little bit of rain in the evenings, so it's getting some fresh water in it. Still catching a few crappie out there, not burning it up, but it's one of those deals that normally this time of year I've just counted those out. But if you can get out there in that 10, 12 foot range, I've been taking a big, like an 8 head and the new Bobby Garland mayfly. Man, I'm having some good luck with it, you can knock around in that brush and catch 2 or 3. A lot of them are thin, you're not catching the big ones this time of year, but you can still catch some fish, and you got to move. So, the crappie are still biting a little bit. Bass has been somewhat, your summertime pattern. It's still hanging in there. I say that fishing deep, throwing a small 6-inch worm, something like that, that you can get them to hit a jig a little bit out there and sometimes cranking. This week, a buddy of mine, Sput Simpson, he caught a 9.5 in 2 foot of water on a spinnerbait at Weiss. So, don't count out that shallow bite too with this little bit of water we've had coming in. So just kind of, you can kind of bounce around, fish those shallow docks and still get bit.
Well, we got spinnerbaits for sale up in the loft, folks. Go get one and get you a 9.5 pounder. Anyway, let's talk Neely Henry. I know the bite's been actually pretty decent up there. We're getting a little bit of current going through Neely, right?
And that's the key. If you can get some water moving and it kind of stimulates them and it gets these fish, the biggest thing is let them get positioned up where that instinct kind of kicks in and they know, hey, when this water's flowing and bait's coming around the corner, we're supposed to eat it. That's the biggest thing. It just kind of jump starts them a little bit. And like you said, I'm down here on Neely today, and I'm headed to the loft right now to pick me up some spinnerbait. So that's one of those things I'm looking at too. But yeah, it's Neely's fishing good and catching some pretty good spots right now.
So the spot bite, is it a finesse bite? Is it a jig bite? What are you looking at?
You can, if you're up that river and you've got some water moving, when it first kicks on, you can get on that, the lay downs of some of that wood and pitch a jig. But the majority of it, especially main lake type deal, you're looking at shaky head, really downsizing, got to kind of finesse them a little bit, throw some kind of just straight tail worm, something like that. And I know a lot of guys, they're throwing that Ned rig and getting bit on it. Sometimes the size isn't what you're looking for, but man, as long as you're getting bit, hey, that's what you got to do.
Lee, as always, brother, we appreciate it. We will talk to you again next week, my friend.
All right, Dano, man, you be safe out there, and we'll see you next week.
Well, that'll do it for our Bucks Island area fishing report for Saturday, August the 5th. Don't forget, you can come on by and see our inventory of pontoon boats and fishing boats, whether it's bass, glass, or tin. We got it there for you. We can help keep your boat running in the service department or help you get the parts you need to do it yourself. And then don't forget the loft, where you can get the latest tackle to help you put a few fish over the gunnel of your boat. Thank you for being the best part of Bucks Island. You are appreciated more than you know.